near-death experiences make the claim we're here to learn and grow and move to the next level. And so before we're born, our counsel, spiritual guides, we come up with a plan of all the stuff we're going to happen in our life so that we can grow. That would have been utterly impossible in the state I was in. Thank you for having me, Melissa. It's nice to meet you.
You too. If you would like to start by sharing your near-death experience story in whatever way, whatever information that you would like to share about that.
Okay. Everybody wants the story. This happened a long time ago. I was 9 years old. I'm almost 66 now. So it was 1966. And back then, near-death experience wasn't a thing. It was not part of our national conversation. Nobody talked about it. Actually, I learned really early on not to talk about it. But that's kind of changed since then. I'm sure near-death experiences have always happened, but people learn to just keep their mouth shut for obvious reasons. And when I try to explain what happened, it's super frustrating because I'm limited to words, and words aren't things, they're symbols, and they're inadequate. Like, you can't eat the word sandwich. So we can point at things, but we can't really give it was an experience. And it was unlike anything that I've ever had before or since. It's a very different type of awareness. So my words are going to fail. And yet I'll do it anyway. Sometimes I feel like a chimpanzee trying to explain the space shuttle or something. I just, I have no words for it. And there's another thing that happens in human communication. It's like human communication is deeply flawed at best. And there's this thing that happens. I'll explain it to you. And I didn't even know this was a thing until I was in my 50s. I always thought that if I said something to you, you would hear what I said. But I found out that's not always the case. I can say something to you and you will hear something entirely different based on your filters. For example, if I say the word bark, you might hear the word dog. But what I said when I said the word bark was tree. And this happens all the time in human communication. Since I became aware of it, I've seen it over and over and over again. And it's funny, we don't even have a word for that, for the situation where miscommunication goes on. So in communicating a near-death experience, it's probably not going to translate that well. Anyone who's had one, like you, Melissa, you've had a mystical experience, you understand. It doesn't take a lot of words. So I have to go back to 1966. This was a different time. I was just a kid. I was 9 years old. And I don't really remember a lot of detail from being 9 years old. The Beatles were huge. I remember I got a toy rifle for Christmas that year, a Johnny Eagle rifle. So I was just a kid playing around doing little kid stuff. And I was a very devout Catholic. I was in a Catholic family. I went to Catholic school. The Catholic world is a whole universe unto itself. And I thought, at the time, I thought it was going to be a priest. Either that or a rock star. It's like, priest, rock star, priest. Rock star's a lot sexier. Maybe I'll do that. But no, I never did become a priest. But I was very devout, and I had this near-death experience, and it was in direct conflict to what I was being taught by my mentors, the people I looked up to, an explanation for reality. The Catholics have a story. I'll explain more later on, but it really shook me up after this happened. First of all, I didn't know what a near-death experience was. Nobody had ever had one that I knew of. I was trying to figure out what it was. And it was pretty traumatic. It was at school one day. It was a beautiful spring day. It was in May. Sunny, beautiful Southern California, and school just got out. And all the kids were pouring out of the building. And I was walking down the sidewalk when all the moms were there coming and picking up their kids, carpools. When you get out of school, it's kind of a happy time. And I was walking down the sidewalk with my friend, Peter. And Peter was telling me that he had just started judo classes. Now, at that time, secret agent television shows were really big, really popular for kids my age, right? And so judo, oh, cool. You'd see these, what they call them? Like a secret agent would do a judo chop on the back of someone's neck and boom, they fall down. That's pretty cool. Right? So Peter's telling me that he's taking judo lessons and that he had learned the day before how to take his opponent and roll them over his shoulder and lie them prone on the ground. And I'm like, cool, man. Show me how to do that. And so he did, but Peter didn't know what he was doing. And we were on concrete. Peter kind of took my arms and he rolled me over his shoulder. He threw me and he didn't do it correctly. And I went head first into the concrete and took a hard blow on the head. And talk about pain. I mean, I was 9 years old. I thought pain was getting soap in my eyes in the bathtub, right? This was different. It was an explosion that went from my skull down to my toes. And it was like a lightning bolt. That's probably a good explanation. It was a lightning bolt of pain. And I was completely consumed by it. And I was lying on the ground and dazed. And I knew I was hurt. I got up. I still remember this too. I stood up and I saw one of my classmates' mom in her station wagon right there to pick up the kids, but she saw what happened. She had this look on her face like, oh. And I knew I was hurt. And so I turned around and started to head back onto the school playground because at that, I don't know if they have these anymore, but we had nurse's office at school when I was a kid. So I started running toward the nurse's office, and that's when I lost consciousness. I collapsed, hit my head again, face first on the concrete. And I'm going to come back to that because I say I lost consciousness, but there was no break in my awareness. I was here in tremendous pain, and then I was not, but I was still aware. So what happened, I have to tell you just by what was described to me, since I wasn't there, that my body went into, I had a bad concussion. My body went into convulsions, like seizures, and my tongue buckled back into my airway, like spasmed back and was blocking my airway. And these moms that are trying to respond here couldn't do anything. They couldn't pull my tongue out, and I was choking to death. So the fire department was close, just a block away, and by the time they got there, I wasn't breathing. There was no pulse, but they revived me. So that's what I know about the accident part. But when I lost consciousness, I didn't lose awareness. I was still, I wouldn't call myself Raymond because it didn't feel like that, but I was aware. And that state of mind is so radically different, that state of awareness. It's like two very different things. The first is there's no time, there's no past, there's no future. And the way I explain that is it's a perpetual unfolding of now, just this moment, nothing else. And it's constant. Also, I didn't have a body. I was like a floating sphere of awareness. And there's no space. There's no up, down, sideways, back, forth. There's no stuff. Now, the problem with language is when I try to explain this stuff, time and space are built right into our language. And so it's going to sound like a progressive series of events. It's going to sound like I'm talking about stuff, but it wasn't like that at all. It was just different. So it was a perpetual unfolding of now. And I was a floating sphere of awareness. That's a strange, completely different experience. Maybe like perpetual unfolding of now. I think people get small glimpses of that. I think we do. Maybe in I don't know, when I play music, time disappears. It's like a trance-like state. I'm only in the moment. Or a brilliant athletic performance, where you're only in the moment. So we have them, but this was like really, really intensely that way. It was different, and I was very confused. And when I first lost consciousness, I can only describe that as a void, which is, we have no reference for a void. People, when you think of void, you think of black space or something, but there was no darkness, there was no blackness, there was no light, there was no color, there was no sensations. There was just nothing. And I was very disoriented. And see, there's no time there. So I didn't remember the accident. I didn't know what was happening. But I was aware, and I was able to have thoughts, but they weren't thoughts. It was more like emotions would be, right? Emotions. So there were no words. So I'm a floating sphere of emotions, and trying to figure out what's going on. And it was very disorienting, and I started getting scared. It was fear. It was like there was nothing I could grab onto as a reference point to know who or where I was or what was happening. And the more I tried to grasp, the further it got away from me. And I started getting very scared, and chaotic feelings like started ramping up. Like I'm losing it. I am losing this. I have no control here. And then I had the realization, again, it wasn't a thought, it was more of an emotion. I realized, okay, I've lost my mind. That's what's happened. I've gone crazy. And it kind of made sense. And then like the next emotion I had was, well, if I've gone crazy, if I've lost my mind, there's nothing I can do about it. That's when I released, I let go. And that's a key point. If we can come back to this, Melissa, later, ask me about that, because that's a key point. When people have mystical experiences, it comes as a result of release. where you're in a situation where there is nothing you can do. That's when it happens. And so once I released those chaotic, crazy emotions, changed. And it started very gently, like peace and contentment and relaxation. And then that started ramping up stronger and stronger and stronger until it was just utter bliss. And the sensation of being in no time with no body in utter bliss is really liberating. It's just wonderful. And that is when I became aware of a point of light, white light. Oh, incidentally, when I had the accident, I did not float above my body. You've probably heard that before, right? I didn't go through a tunnel. I didn't have a life review. Some people say that they have a, like watching a film of their lives. You know, I didn't have any of that. None of that happened to me. It was directly into this void. And then from that, being aware of the white light. And as a floating sphere of awareness, it's happening on all levels. And somehow I knew that I had to go to that light. I don't know how I knew that. I knew I had to go there. And I released, and the light got more intense and larger and more beautiful until it just absorbed me. And I became the white light. I was the white light. And you've heard people talk about love. You know, this is a place of love. Well, it was just like, you know, the love, it was like wave after wave after wave of cleansing white love washing over me. Perfect love. Infinite love. That's a big word, but that's what it was. Infinite love. And it absorbed me. I had become infinite love. It was one thing. And this wasn't a progressive series of events. It was like one thing. But it's going to sound like that. I became aware of a presence of some sort, another floating sphere of awareness. And it was my dog, Skippy. I knew it was Skippy. Now, Skippy didn't have a body. He didn't have fur or a tail, or, you know, like a dog. It was like this glowing thing. But it was Skippy. And Skippy had died a few years before. It was a big loss for me. And I remember didn't remember the accident. There was no past. I didn't know what was going on. But I was trying to figure it out. I was pretty happy to see Skippy. And we were communicating, and it was telepathic, and there were no words. It was emotions. I love you, Skippy. Where have you been? What's happening? You know, those kinds of emotions. Again, there's no space there. We became one, and all of it was the white light. I re-entered the white light. Skippy was part of me now. And I became aware of another presence, more complex, an intelligent presence like me, a floating sphere of awareness. No, in my paintings, the ones I'll send you, I've deliberately tried to not make it look like a person. It won't look like anything. It's kind of abstract. But this presence, it was a masculine presence somehow, even though it was no gender. But he knew me, and he kind of called me to him. I used to say he called me by name, but I didn't have a name. And he said, "Come here. I want to show you some things." And before I tell you what happened there, again, there's no time. And that feels like I wasn't Raymond anymore. Raymond is a noun. person, place, or thing. Right? I had become an action. I was an event. So I was like, I was Raymonding, like add ing to the end of my name. So everything was an event or an action. So this being kind of called me and said, I want to show you some things. And he absorbed me and I absorbed him. We all became the white light and fell in love all over again. It was so cool. And I had what I can only call a download. It was like all of creation opened up and shimmered. And it was like billions of questions were answered. It's just a moment. I got it. And I understood. And it wasn't like learning something. It's not like he taught me anything because I already knew it. Infinite knowledge, understand perfectly how everything works. I understood my purpose, I understood, and it's stuff that I could never explain. There are no words for it. It's like I'd be like a chimpanzee trying to tell you about the space shuttle. It's kind of frustrating. I wish I could. So there was this download, and I was blown away. It's like, wow, what is this? And then another level opened up. He goes, I want to show you who you really are. That was really important. It was not what you, it was who. It was you, who you really are. And it opened up again, right? And here I am. And this was God. Now, when I used the word God, it's like saying bark and you hear dog, right? Or bark and tree. Okay. I think there's a better name for God. It's in the Bible. I don't have any idea where, but I read it one time. That's perfect. God refers to him herself as I am that I am, right? I am that I am. That puts it into a verb instead of a proper noun. So when I say God, I mean I am that I am. And so here's what that looked like, kinda. Except that there's no space, but it's like, imagine, Melissa, you're the Hubble Space Telescope, right? You're up there in space and you're focused in on this galaxy. Except this is not happening in front of me. It's on all levels, right? Everywhere. And it's infinite. And you know how when you look at a picture of a galaxy, it's like tiny points of light everywhere. And they're all swirling around one another to this intense white glowing center. It was kind of like that. And I was one of those points of light. And it was like an infinite number of them. And each one of those points of light was like every TT fly, every wombat, every human being, every rock who had ever lived, they were these points of light. And I was one. And we were all connected. This was one thing. It was I am that I am. And I had all of the potential. It helps me to close my eyes sometimes. So I had all of the potential and power of God. And yet I was still me at the same time. But I wasn't Ray the ego. I was the core essence of whatever, the soul, or I mean, it's different. We were all connected. And this is the most exquisite part. This really blew me away. I was 9 years old. Right? There was music. We were singing, for lack of a better word. It was worship. And this kind of music makes music as we know it like, yeah. doesn't even compare. It was alive, and you could inhale it and smell it, touch it. The music, we were worshiping, we were singing, and the song was, "We love you." That's all it was. It was all love. It was absolutely intoxicating. Somehow I am that I am, told me that it's not my time and I had to go back. Not in words. I didn't know what back meant because I didn't remember the accident. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it meant something other than what was happening right then. I was like going, and so I threw a spiritual temper tantrum and I said, no, I'm not going back. I will go. And I was reassured. We reassured me that I could come back anytime I want. Once I've fulfilled my purpose, right? Once you've done your thing, you can come back. And I used to describe this, Melissa, as getting stuffed back into my body. I think that was wrong. It's not the right way to say it. Because I don't think we are souls stuffed in a body. I don't think we come into the world. I think we come out of the world. We grow out of the world. So it wasn't like getting put back in my body. It was, I could feel what we call reality reassembling itself. That's a better description. And it was like, I'm trying to think of like how to do a visual. Best I could come up with was like, say you're going to make a smoothie, fruit smoothie. And you got your blender here, you put your bananas and fruit in there, and then you turn it on, it turns into this liquid. Well, if you could film that and run it in reverse, you watch all that liquid turn back into fruit. That's what it felt like. I was back on that playground in tremendous pain. I opened my eyes and the emergency technicians were circled over me. My head was packed in ice. I opened my eyes and I closed my eyes and I tried to go back. I tried with all my will to go back. And then someone saw me open my eyes and said, "Raymond, wake up." And they're slapping me in the face. "Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep. Wake up." There was a bunch of medical stuff that happened. I still remember the doctor's name in the hospital. His name was Dr. Funk. I loved his name. His whole name tag on it. My mother was the director of nursing at the hospital where they took me. And she said, but from the time she got the first phone call that, there's been an accident, Raymond's not breathing, to when she got the second phone call, he's breathing again. It was 12 minutes. So I don't know what happened during that time or how long I was out, but that's what I know about that part. And it was a pretty big trauma for me spiritually, because none of that fit what I was being taught. None of it. I mean, if anybody should have met Jesus, it would have been me. That's what I believed, and I didn't.
So you mentioned that you wanted to go back to the acceptance or the letting go when you were in the void experiencing that panic, and then you had the thought or the feeling that you had lost your mind, and then you accepted it. So what is it about the acceptance that allowed you to move into a state of peace?
Yeah, that's an important question, because I had a lot of time to process this. When I was a kid, back then, because NDE wasn't a thing, I learned not to talk about it, and I psychologically crammed it and put it away, and I never processed it. So I've had a lot of time to process this, to really think about that. What was that? When I released, why did that unfold the entire universe? And this is not something that's unusual. I mean, it happens in NDE sometimes, but it also happens spontaneously. You had an experience like that, right? You know, I can only call them mystical experiences or out about whatever. This is not uncommon. It's happened all through history where someone is suddenly overcome with the inexplicable, fantastic awareness and understanding of, wait a minute, this is all one thing. This is all one thing. And you cease to exist. Like, can't tell where your skin stops and the rest of the universe keeps going. It's all one thing. And it's a harmonious, blissful manifestation of the divine. This happens to people all the time. And I think what happens is when we release, when we let go, that's when it happens. I'll give you an example because I just read this story. It was amazing about a man who was he's a Zen a Buddhist teacher guy, a monk, right? But he was in World War II, and he was a European. He was in this horrific battle, artillery battle, bombs flying and exploding everywhere. And he said you could hear the bombs coming in and see him. And here was this thing come roaring right at him, tearing through the sky, coming right at me. And I knew I was going to get hit. And at that point, I just went, there's nothing I can do. I just let go. And the bomb hit, but it was a dud. And it didn't blow up.
Wow.
But he had a huge mystical experience because of that. And he went on to study Buddhism and become a monk. But that's a good example of it. And you know, Melissa, you can plug your own experience into that too. You know, that's when it happens, when we release. And you can't try to release because then you're trying. Like, releasing is the opposite of trying. You let go. And yeah, it's very common. It's happened all through history. That was really important for me to understand that. Like, why did this happen? It's because I released.
I'm really, really glad you shared that, because a lot of people do ask me how to have a mystical or spiritual experience, and I haven't really known how to respond to that. So I'm going to ask you a question that I know there's no answer for. There's no answer that we can give with words, because I have a memory of being in the light, what we call the light. And I have written essays, pages and pages and pages trying to describe it. I've tried to paint it. There's just nothing that even comes close. If you could give it your best shot, how would you describe the light? What is it like?
Well, yeah, it's not even in the presence. It's becoming the light. The light. If that happened when that being said, "I'm going to show you who you really are," right? And if you look at, say, you look at me on the camera right now. There's a male, American, aging, rugged and handsome, highly intelligent. That's what you see, right? So it depends on who you really are, right? If you had a little focus knob and you could turn it up a little bit, you'd see a father, a brother, a Disney artist, a musician, my story, right? If you could turn that focus up a little higher, you might see a man who's, starting to feel his age and aware of the boneheaded things he's done in his life that have hurt other people. Is that who I really am? Turn up the focus a little more, and you might think that you see a soul that's in a body, like a sphere of sensitivity that is confronting the outside world, which is separate from him, right? I think that's where most of us are stuck. We think that's who we really are. But if you could turn that focus not all the way up to past 10, turn it up to 11, you would see an infinitely powerful, magnificent, majestic expression of the divine. That's who you really are. I'm talking to the viewer here. That's who you really are. And that's what the white light was. I am that I am. It was like a realization of who I really am. And I know that a lot of people that are looking at these types of videos have a lot of questions. It's like, you know, I think a lot of them are in grief. They've lost someone they love. And they, you know, how do you deal with that? I mean, and I am not making, trivializing death at all. I mean, when I lose somebody I love, it hurts. I get it. But they're hoping for some sort of evidence of the afterlife. And I kind of have to say yes and no at the same time. It's like, because in the sense that who I really am is not an ego in a bag of skin that's confronting the outside, like stuffed into my body, and then I'm released from my body. And I don't think that's true. In the sense that I am and that you are an infinitely powerful, majestic expression of the divine, of course there's afterlife. There's nothing else that God does, right? I don't know if I answered your question, but it was a nice answer.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Do you believe that we live one life on Earth and then we transition to whatever's next, so to speak? There's not really good language for what I'm talking about here. Or do you believe that we keep coming back and doing this over and over?
Great question. I hope that it's not taken in a cavalier way. I'm trivializing death or anything. I used to think that. When I first started processing my near-death experience, it was decades after it happened, by the way. When I read this magazine article and this near-death experience, it was remarkably similar to mine. And I was like, oh, this is a thing? I didn't know. And it wasn't until then, I mean, even it still took me a while to process. I had to start talking about it, like you did. Mm-hmm. But your question is, do we live one life or we do this over and over again? Depends on who you think you really are. Mm. Do I think that Raymond, as a system of stored memories, which is what my ego is, do I think that's going to continue and continue? No, but that's not who I really am. That's not who you really are. There's nothing God does. I am that I am. There's no alternative to doing. That's what God does, right? So I used to think death was the transition, like another birth into this big, beautiful thing that happened to me. I thought that was we're reborn into the next state. But I'm not sure about that. And I'm actually really comfortable with not knowing the answer because I didn't really die. You know, I came close. So I don't know. But my gut tells me, because I've had a lot of time to process this, is that it's different than that. It's creation, and the universe works in polarities. you can't have the inside without the outside. You can't have a magnet with a positive pole but no negative pole. Everything has its opposite. That's why I love the yin yang symbol, because one implies the other. And it is one thing. Or like a wave on the ocean, right? There's a peak and there's a trough. And you can't have a peak without the trough. You can't have a trough without the peak. And so I think life and death is probably that. It's the same thing. It's a polarity. And when we die, like a wave, we go back into the ocean and we become a wave. You know, it's all one big thing. And do my memories survive? I kind of doubt it. I don't see what the point of that would be. I think the universe this is kind of like, performance art. And it's like, God's going to the movies. He wants to be surprised. So I'm not sure if that answers your question either, but you know, I'm glad you brought this up, because I've seen near-death experiences make the claim that when they died, they went to heaven and there's beautiful flowers. I'm paraphrasing. Beautiful flowers and, you know, lovely colors, and there was these great halls of learning and this council of elders, spiritual guides. I didn't have a body. There was no stuff there, and that their explanation for life is that this is a school. Like, we're here to learn and grow and move to the next level. And so before we're born, our council of spiritual guides, we come up with a plan of all the stuff we're going to happen in our life so that we can grow. You've heard this before, right? Yeah. That would have been utterly impossible in the state I was in. There was no past or future. It was a perpetual unfolding of now. There was no way you could plan for the future. Didn't exist. So I don't know where these stories come from. Doesn't work with what I know. So yeah, that's like the drop water back in the ocean and, you know, do it all over again, I think.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I heard you say in another interview that we are manifesting God wanting to play. And I was going to ask you about that. And that's sort of what you were talking about there.
Performance art. And you know, if you were God and you're playing a video game, right? And you got this great video game going, you're totally immersed in it, and it's real, and I mean, it's really real. And it's all these beautiful, wondrous things that every orgasmic thing that you could think of, and beauty and happiness that could ever happen. After a while, you'd be going, where's the little button that's like surprise me button? Press that one, right? Because when you go to the movies, you know, you want to be immersed in it, like it's real. It needs to be believable, but you know, you also want to be scared. I mean, every Disney movie there ever is, there's a villain. There's a bad guy, right? So that's kind of how I think of you and I think that I am that I am, and we're playing. It's more like I'm going to Hindus think of it as a drama, that this actually is a kind of a play. I don't know. But I don't, I'm comfortable with not knowing.
I think you mentioned that you were shown your purpose. What is your purpose in this life?
You know, it was really, really obvious there. Everything was about love. Everything was made out of love. There's nothing that wasn't love. And so I don't think we have a thing to learn. when I had that download, I had infinite knowledge. And I was like, I got it all. There's nothing to learn. But that state of love was all potential. I mean, infinite potential, but it didn't have any skin on. It's the only way I can describe this. It was intangible in a way. And I think that when God incarnates, it gives a way to find and explore and experience that love in a way that you have skin on, which is hard to do cleanly. But I think that's why we're here. I think our purpose is to love.
That's beautiful. And I've heard you, I just want to highlight this point because I've heard you talk about this, how in some near-death experiences, they're told or they're shown that the purpose of life is to learn how to love. But based on your experience, what I hear you saying is that there's nothing for us to learn. We're simply here to love.
It's well said.
Would you like to talk about your paintings? Because what I'm going to do is put some of them up on the screen. So is there any specific painting that you want to share about?
My favorite one is the white light. I think I got that one. I mean, this stuff is just impossible to paint. And actually, I'm a wood carver. I'm not actually a painter. It's a different discipline. But I think I got the white light one. But if I actually did the white light, it'd be a blank white canvas that's living and breathing and loving. You can't really paint that. So I did it in, try to give it some intensity by comparing it to other colors at the same time. That one was good. Another one was that being of awareness, the masculine presence that knew me and said, I want to show you who you really are. And I got the download, that guy. And I deliberately tried to not make it look like a human being. As a matter of fact, it looks like this swirl of colors with like, I don't know, giant lips. It's just bizarre looking. So, and then there was another one that was of Skippy. And that was kind of a white light thing too. My intent at one time was to do a book, like a coffee table book. And I had second thoughts about it when I started thinking about it. But, a book, that means it's going to cost a bunch of money. And then I'm going to have to monetize it. And then, I wanted to keep my motives clean. It was like, forget all that. I don't want to do it. And I can write. I just don't do it.
So one final question. What would you say to people is the best thing for us to do or to be in order to get the most out of this life experience?
How to get the most out of life? I would say this. If you're not happy alone as a single person, you'll never be happy in a relationship. Real happiness can't come from relationships. It only comes from playing guitar. Take up music. I mean, that's where it's at. That makes me as happy as can be. And I know not everybody can play music, but find those things in life that bring about a trance-like state. Some people do it with meditation. I've never been able to do that. I just couldn't. But when I play music, I am gone. No past, no future. Just this. It's just a beautiful state. And you can do this other ways. Same thing happens when I walk. I walk a lot, like 10 to 12 miles every day. And I do long distance walking. And there's this beautiful pulse. Like when I first started doing it, I was thinking, I'm going to need to lose weight. And so that's what I was doing. But then it didn't take long for me to find out how much I loved it. And that there's this beautiful rhythm and pulse, the sound, the motion, where it starts to feel like the earth is walking me, right? At that trance state. You can get it in sports. I get it when I cook. I love to cook. Those things where you're not in your head and your thinking stops. That's where I find the most beauty in life.
Well, Raymond, thank you so much for doing this interview and for sharing your experience and your wisdom with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself or where people can get in touch with you if that's something that you're open to?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Facebook, Bitcoin, like everybody else. I have a website for my art. You'll see all the stuff I've done for Disney there and a bunch of other stuff too. And that's at woodcarverguru.com. That's one word, woodcarverguru. And yeah, see you there. Thank you, Melissa. It's so nice to meet you. I'm glad we finally got to meet.
Yes, me too. It's been my honor to be able to talk to you. So thank you so much for doing
the video, by the way. I love your video. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
When I first brought it up and looked at it, I thought, okay, there's a real person right there. That's a real thing.
Thank you for watching the Love Covered Life podcast. If you'd like to support this channel, I've shared the link to my Patreon in the description box where you can get benefits like behind the scenes of this podcast, early ad-free access to interviews, and a monthly live stream Q&A with me. I've also shared the link to my free Discord community, which I've just started and I'm very excited about, where I share free resources and a bunch of channels and forums where people can connect and grow spiritually together. You'll also find the link to my website, lovecoveredlife.com, where I share my paintings, my TikTok and Instagram at Melissa Denise, and my clips channel, where I share shorter clips of my podcast episodes. Thank you for watching and thank you for your support.